Michael, you must be delighted without going overboard about the result on Tuesday and the positives of a clean sheet, 3 goals, a better performance all round.
Yeah, we were pleased with a lot of aspects of the game. Scored 3 very good goals from the point of view of came as a result of what we had tried to do in terms of the preparation of the team, in terms of pressing the opposition high up the pitch. That's where we tend to have most of the joy, and we had other chances in the game because of that. So that's a positive, because it shows we've got the desire to do that, and we've got the legs and the energy in the team to be able to do that, and the running power. And the clean sheet was good for everyone's confidence, for Jack, for the back four, and for the team as a whole, because obviously there's been very few of those. So yeah, all round we're pleased. We're not delighted, we're pleased. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's still areas and a lot of areas where there's room for improvement, and the players know that. And obviously, but results like that can gives hopefully individuals confidence, give the team as a whole confidence, and we take that forward into the game tomorrow.
On to Reading then. How are you going to make certain that this high intensity, this type of game you're playing that proves successful, will go against Reading? Because they'll be a different type of team to play against.
Different team. I mean, they played a lot with 3 at the back, and although they changed the system midway through the game on Wednesday night, so yeah, I think the focus has to be on ourselves, on what's the strongest parts of our team at this minute in time. We've spoken a little bit about the anxiety in the team, and a little bit about obviously a team that's had lacking a little bit in confidence given what's happened in the season to date. But you don't need confidence to press the opposition. You only need desire, and you need structure, and you need running power, and through that we can build confidence within the team. And so the team have set the bar where they set it on Tuesday night, and the message has been pretty clear. That going forward, that's the intensity of the play that we want, and obviously to try and replicate that. The championship is a challenge because Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, it's a big ask for players to do that physically, but we believe we have the the right players in the team at this minute in time to deliver that kind of performance.
You've talked about Reading. We've got a former player, Charlie Adam, coming back, and a former assistant manager. Does that make much difference to people coming back to a team? They obviously want to raise the game. Will you be extra alert for Charlie shooting from 70 yards?
Yeah, I know Charlie well, actually, and actually many years ago played with his father at Dundee United. So yeah, Charlie was a very popular player here, so he was. So I'm sure he'll get a good reception. He's maybe not as mobile as he once was, but his quality is still evident, and I think that was evident in the game on Wednesday night. So we have to be aware of his range of passing and his choice to pass. I think one thing with Charlie is he always tries to play the most positive pass when in possession. So we've spoken about that with the players. As for Mark coming back, I don't think it has any bearing on the game. Obviously he had a successful period here at the club. I'm sure he's very fond memories of his time here as well, but the objective for us is to send him away disappointed tomorrow.
While we're talking about Reading, you went on loan to Reading, and I'm not sure if you remember, but rumour has it, and it's in the programme notes tomorrow, that you scored a blinding goal against Stoke in the 2-0 victory. Do you remember that?
I do. I remember the goal well. Because it was a header, and there was very few of those over the years. Quite a header from a corner, I think, 15 yards out. Neville Southall was in goal, I think. So yeah, it didn't. If I'm right in thinking, both Stoke and Reading were relegated that year, so it didn't have any impact on us long term. But yeah, I spent, I think it was maybe 10-12 games there on loan at the time. Obviously there wasn't the transfer windows at that time, so I think I went on loan possibly in March for the last 8-10 games of the season, but change of manager. But it was a club that was in that transition of moving to a new stadium and everything at that point in time as well. But I remember the game well.
Talking about games, you've probably had about 14 training sessions and 6 games since you've been at the club.
Yeah.
Do you think you're in a position now to know what your best team is?
Well, I think I'm getting closer to it. There's no doubt about that. I think that I suppose if you look at it from game 1 to where we are now, and the actual number of changes is still pretty small, I would imagine. I don't know the exact number, but it's a single figure, I would imagine, from over the 6 games. that doesn't necessarily mean that that's my best team. That's what I believe is my best team at this minute in time, and I believe it's the players that I think are best suited to the situation we're in. I think when you're in this scenario, you need your hardest working and possibly the most honest team you can put on the pitch, and that's what we've tried to do. But it doesn't mean that the players on the periphery of things can't come in and force their way into the team. What has made it difficult for those players is, unfortunately, that the training time and the type of training, it makes it more difficult for those players to actually stake a claim to come into the team, because you're just, it's either recovery and preparation for the next game. And as I say, that's possibly one of the reasons we've been as consistent as we have been, and we've tried to be as consistent as we can with the bench as well. So, but there is players on the periphery that I'm sure will get opportunities, because the games now going forward are coming every 2 to 3 days, and I'm sure the squad will be tested.
You talk about the games coming thick and fast, and you say you have a big squad. We also have one of the oldest squads. Does that concern you going forward?
It concerns me overall, not necessarily just from the nature of the league and the frequency of the games, and obviously the big games over the festive period are more challenging. But I think we have a void of players in the 21 to 25 age group, which I think you need, because they can really drive your team and drive that side of things. We probably have too many players in the 25 to 29 age bracket, which means that they need the younger players as well, to add to the dynamic of the squad as well. So yeah, I don't think the players we have are the players we have, so we have to just make the most with that. I don't think we're particularly old. I think actually some of the older players in the squad are arguably some of our fittest, the likes of James McLean. And you look at Stephen Ward still playing and doing as well at his age. So it doesn't really give me that much concern. But what I would like to see would be a more of a balance in the ages within the squad, and there is quite a large imbalance in that.
So presumably when the transfer window does arrive, if you are able to do any wheeler dealing or buying players and getting rid of players, you'll be looking for players with that sort of attribute.
Well, ideally that's what we're looking at. That's what we would like to see come into the building. It's easier said than done, obviously, and we're in a situation where we will have to, players will have to leave for players to come in. So we have to be mindful of that as well. So, but yeah, it would be nice, because ultimately, players who aren't playing want to play, and we have to be, I suppose, not sympathetic, but we have to obviously understand that situation, and those players will want to probably move on. And if that gives us the opportunity to bring players in and they fit the profile ideally what we would like, then that's what we'll try and do. But January is always a difficult window. It's very difficult to get someone out of someone else's team if they're in that team doing well. So typically you're possibly looking at players who possibly haven't had the best first half of the season at their current club, or possibly you're looking at maybe younger players who are at bigger clubs with the opportunity to provide first team experience for them. And like anything, there's always a little level of risk attached to those. So we'll have to make decisions around that and around those players, and assess whether, as I say, they can help the squad.
Jordan Cousins came into the team sort of out of nowhere. He hadn't played for a long while, and gave us that additional steel, which seemed to give everybody a bit more confidence. And building on that confidence now is a role you're going to have to push really hard, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I'm delighted with Jordan. Again, I suppose Jordan suffered because I think he'd only played 2 games in August, and then obviously I had to go off the information that I was being given from within the club to pick a team for Barnsley. So those players who weren't involved, then it was more difficult for them to come forward, given that we won the first 2 games. Jordan has trained excellently, and that's part of the reason that he got his opportunity. He trains very well. He played in a game at the training ground, and his attitude was first class, and we felt that he would give us something. Obviously his physical attributes are there. He's got strong physically, good running power, but he uses the ball effectively as well. And I suppose he typifies exactly what we would like to see from the players who are not in the team at this minute in time. And if the players do that, they'll get the opportunity.
A lot's been said about the recruitment at the football club over the last 2, 3, possibly 4 years. you must be aware that people will be looking at you to see that the recruitment improves, because, as I've said to you before, managers come in here after a match and they say on paper Stoke's got a fantastic squad. You know, like we all know, that you don't win matches on paper, so just a heads up that you're probably going to be scrutinised with everything that you do.
Yeah, well, that comes with the job. I don't anticipate spending some of the money that's been spent in the past. It's certainly not in this window. And equally, yeah, recruitment is essential at any club. If you get it wrong, then it can make life very difficult. You obviously then have not only the situation that the players aren't obviously affecting the team at this minute in time, but they're also players that can potentially be a drain on the club, and obviously they possibly are out of the club on a temporary basis, on a loan basis. You know, much has been spoken about the size of the squad, but equally we still have players who are out on loan who can potentially come back to the club. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done in that area to streamline the squad, to make it much more effective, and to try and move the club forward with a much different profile of player than possibly what we've looked for in the past, given where the club is at this minute in time. And that's all work in progress. This window is a different scenario because we want to just inject, hopefully, added quality into the squad, maybe a little bit of added pace into the squad, younger players ideally, and then, you know, longer term there's a much bigger job to be done on that.
Slightly difficult question now, and I know you'll give an honest answer. After we scored 2 of the goals on Tuesday night, 2 of the senior players decided to cup their ears at the fans. It didn't go down well with the however many people were in the stadium, because they're your hardcore fans. Do you look at that as banter, or do you think perhaps it was ill-advised?
To be honest, I wasn't overly aware of it. You know, I suppose I thought it was some part of their celebration, as if, but yeah, I mean, look, I suppose emotions run high at times, and maybe the players they've not been in that situation very often this season, to be 3-0 ahead, and maybe it was a reaction that at the time was based on emotion. I don't think we should read too much into that. I don't think there's an issue between, you know, either the players in question and the supporters. We've said long, and you know, since I've come in here, repeatedly said that, you know, the supporters will play an essential part in the recovery of the club, and the players need that level of support. So it's not something that I think we need to dwell on. And as I say, the players in question, I suppose it was just a spur of the moment reaction. And
the last thing from me, how are we injury wise?
We're good, other than Ryan, obviously with the groin, but it's not as bad as, you know, possibly first feared, and we hope that maybe, you know, it's something that'll keep him out for just a couple of games. But other than that, everyone's fitting well.
Lee Gregory's back to being fit and well, yeah?
Yeah,
okay.
All the rest, everyone, the illness, the players who had illnesses, and any other little issues are back fit, which means we have a lot of players on the training ground on a Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you, cheers.
For the first goal against Luton, there was, like I said, a huge rise in testosterone, I would say. As Stoke seems like charged through, mustering their way through the midfield, particularly Joe Allen, as leaving the ball eventually to McLean to finish. Do you think that's what's really been lacking at Stoke, this sort of like determination and muscle in the midfield particularly?
I don't think it's been lacking so much in the games that I've seen. I don't think that we have been outplayed in any of the 6 games. You know, we were, when we played Blackburn here, we lost a last minute goal in the last few minutes at a time when we looked more capable of going and winning the game. There's been times in the game where we've fallen out of games a little bit, and possibly that has been down to the physical nature of the game, and possibly down to the fact that the opposition have more physical players in their team. You know, when we had obviously Joe and Ryan Woods and Sam Clucas in the midfield, the physicality of that is less than it is when you put Jordan in there. So yeah, I think it helps at this minute in time probably to have that running power and to have that physicality in the team, but it comes mainly out of desire. If you look back at the game, you know, Joe was excellent in the game, but you know, the biggest part of his game was how the players responded to him pressing, Tom Ince pressed the game extremely well. James McLean pressed the game. You know, and we're in positions then when we won the ball that we had players high to go and affect it. And that's maybe something that we haven't had. We've played a little bit reserved at times. And we've been a little bit uncertain, you know, whether I should be as high as that on the pitch in those instances. But we had other chances. You know, Sam Clucas has a great chance similar to the one that James took that the goalkeeper saved. We have another one where Sam receives the ball on the edge of the box from Tom Ince. I think Joe had another one in the second half, and a lot of those chances came from being able to press the opposition and win the ball back as high up as possible. It's not always down to physicality. It's often down to more structure of the team and the desire of the team, and making sure that the distances to press are not big distances. And I think that was probably the most significant thing in the night.
Are you sure that Jack Butland is properly prepped in case Charlie Adam is playing? He's not going to wander too far from his line, is he?
Well, I don't know. Jack will be fine. I'm sure Jack knows Charlie well, and I'm sure there's many times in training he's probably tried to do that. But yeah, no, I don't think Jack will have any. I know the level of Jack's preparation, so I know that he'll be fine for the game tomorrow.
That's good. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.